If you're new to Procreate or are thinking about buying the app for yourself, here I'm going to walk through a sketching session I had and the tools that I used in making my creative decisions. After I had this base image with the background separated, I made a duplicate and took the opacity down 50%, and this is going to act as the shadow on this wall. I wanted to create something with more dimension and have a real sense that the plant is sitting in a setting rather than it just being a one-off line work exercise. And so once I had this shadow, then I take the transform tool to it, and without anything specific in mind, and barring the fact that I actually don't have a specific reference for how the shadow is acting on a wall, I only had the plant. I just play around with the various possibilities, even when they're not really realistic, because sometimes you can angle something or enlarge it and you come across an interesting composition that you may never have initially thought of without experimenting with it first. I then move it underneath the original layer that I want to keep more forward, and I scroll through the various filter settings and settle on one that I find is suiting the image that I have in my head. But I don't commit to it fully and always make sure that I play with the opacity to make sure that it's not going to overwhelm the central piece, which is the plant itself. So I have a good idea of a shadow here, but now I really have to start to make it move. And I'm starting to imagine this being at like magic hour or at a point where the sun is coming through at such a high intense point and on an angle that it sort of disrupts how the shadow is moving across the wall, stretching it out, making it more looming and kind of abstracted. I'm pretty happy with how the shadow turned out. So now I'm going to address the original plant layer, and I'm going to add a layer on top of it and create a clipping mask. Now what this is going to do, as you can see, I can draw over it with anything, and it's only going to conform itself to the boundaries of the layer that it's clipped to. So here I immediately know I want to make a real strong impression of the light blasting this plant. How I want the light to look is going to depend on what stands out to me while I run through all of these filters here. Sometimes I can hit on one that suits it totally in a way that I was not expecting, and that's exactly what happened here when I scrolled over the vivid light. I loved how it turned out. It was nothing like I saw in my head, but it revealed itself to me, and I said, okay, let's go. I headed to the adjustments panel next, and I selected bloom. And the reason I did this is that I wanted that sort of scorched, blown out effect of direct, intense light hitting the object. So right before I call this complete, I look at the image as a black and white and sort of assess where I need to improve contrast. So I go back to my original and find the adjustments panel again and go to curves. And now I'm going to select little areas where I feel that it could benefit from being deepened. I'm not someone who uses curves a lot, to be honest. I'm very much a beginner at it, having done the majority of my work traditionally and not related to Photoshop or any kind of digital program or even photography that gives you a better handle on values in a very mechanical type of way. Like, I feel like my memories of being in school and studying value and contrast was so incredibly limited because, at least personally, when I went to school, it was not like an applied college. So it didn't have a school to job pipeline. It was like school to gallery. And they were simply not interested in any kind of traditional forms of artwork. It was very conceptual. It was very down with drawing. I think I had a teacher who told me drawing was dead. So they had that chip on their shoulder. So I really, even in a fundamental year, the best that we had was doing those box value charts. And that was pretty much it. Whereas now, like, you do a simple search online about value in artwork and unbelievable tutorials that last like 40 minutes come up from like industry professionals to art school students who have such an incredible grasp on this. So honestly, I've learned a lot outside of school about how to balance my artwork better in that regard. So here are the samples of each image with their values changed. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. See you later.